Shalom, WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah talk. This week, our parsha is Tisa, most famously known for the sin of the golden calf. Right in the middle of all these instructions about building the tabernacle, this portable sanctuary in the desert, we get this break in the action, and all the people are starting to get impatient for Moshe to come down the mountain. Right? He's been up there 40 days and 40 nights, receiving the Torah, and they start to complain. And here's the part that always puzzled me. Aaron, Moses' brother, Moshe's brother, who is going to become the high priest in this new tabernacle that's going to be built, he tells all the people, bring me your gold earrings. He melts them down and turns them into the idol that is the golden calf. So many questions. One, why would he do this? And two, why after doing it would he be entitled to become or empowered to become the high priest of the whole nation after leading them in idol worship? I was pondering these questions when I came across a very interesting article by Andrew Rayfeld, who was talking about the holiday of Purim that recently passed. And he was saying how we really see in the characters of Vashti and Esther two sort of opposite or opposing versions of leadership. Vashti, he says, called upon by the king to display her beauty before the assembled, refuses. She stands up for what she feels is morally right, and for it, she is banished and out of the picture. But we remember her as a strong woman, perhaps, who stood up for a woman's right to her selfhood, to her body, to only display what she wants, when she wants, where she wants. And we remember her that way till this day. She stood up and had moral clarity, but it also had its limits. She exits the story immediately. Esther, on the other hand, says Andrew Rayfield, practices a different kind of leadership. She becomes the queen, and she doesn't stand up or stand out in any way, it seems, until prompted by Mordecai, when she finally, after much cajoling, it seems, on his part, agrees to do something. But even then, he points out, she fasts, she schemes, she doesn't stand up and give a clear moral message. She kind of figures out how she'll move forward. And he goes on to say, if Vashti represents the prophetic protester, this is a quote, Esther, often viewed more charitably, represents what sociologist Max Weber called political ethics, or an ethic of responsibility. A leader who puts the responsibility for a community ahead of their own moral purity. Very interesting. I think a lot about these two models, the prophetic model that we see in Vashti, and let's call it the priestly model that we see in Esther, the one who is in the community and serves the community as best that they can, making sure that they are able to minister to the people, whether or not they stand up. We see a similar paradigm, I think, in the story of the golden calf. The Midrash teaches us that why does Aaron build the golden calf for the people? Well, just before they ask him to build the golden calf, they ask a character who was mentioned earlier, an important character, at least for the first part of the story, just like Vashti, named Hur. You might remember him from the story of the Battle of Amalek, that as long as Moses held his hands up after the Exodus, Amalek attacks them. As long as he held his hands up, the Israelites were victorious. When he put his hands down, they were not. And so, of course, his arms get heavy if you hold them up long enough. And so Aaron holds up one arm, Hur holds up the other. So this is a character we know who's been mentioned. And the people came to Hor and they said, build us this idol. And he said, no. Speaking with moral clarity, like a prophet, like Vashti, they say, okay, we're sorry you feel that way, and they kill him. Now, this is again the Midrash. It's not mentioned in the Torah, but we never do hear in the Torah about Hor again. So maybe this Midrash is explaining where Hor disappeared to. Obviously, immediately they turn to Aaron and they say, build us a golden calf. And Aaron says, sure I will. Right? So you could say he's only trying to protect himself. That's one way to read it. Except when he makes this idol, we read in Exodus chapter 32, he holds it up and he says, this is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So on the one hand, he builds an idol for sure. On the other hand, they might be breaking the rule of having an image of God, but at least they're still worshiping the right God, the God who took them out of Egypt. So maybe in this scheme, Aaron found a way to compromise his own moral purity. He didn't just say, no, idol worship is wrong. And yet, he was still in the place to lead them back towards the right path. And ultimately, when we want to question, obviously, both these forms of leadership are needed. We need Moshe, the prophet, to give us sort of the way, and Aaron, the priest, to minister to the people, to be a Ohev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom, a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace among people. So both are necessary. But from this story, do we think Aaron did the right thing? Well, he does get rewarded with being the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. Right? He does, at least for that role, the role of priest, he is the ultimate in that role, meaning that he's willing to compromise his own moral purity, to remain part of the story, to help bring the people back. And the Midrash tells us that the tabernacle may be, in fact, a prescription to counterbalance the people's desire for idolatry. Right? It gives them a very visceral, physical place to turn to worship this God who's very hard to sense or relate to. And Aaron is the one rewarded with running that place. Right? He remains the priest. He remains the one among the people to minister to them, to bring them back towards the correct path as far as the Torah is concerned, the path of worshiping only one God. In his article, Andrew Rayfield goes on to say these types of leadership we see on display all the time. We see them in Iran. There are those who are willing to run to the streets and protest, he says, as well as those who stay, maybe even working for the government, maybe even as civil servants, in a place to help those in need. We see, I think, those forms of leadership everywhere. We see it in the United States. We see it in Israel. And the more complicated the situations get, and they are complicated, the more we see that how necessary both of these forms of leadership are. The world needs its Vashtis and needs its Esthers. It needs its Moshes and needs its Aharons. Ultimately, if a society is going to function, it needs its clear moral voices, as well as those who are willing to express their morality differently in being part of the society and caring for others. The question that we are challenged with, perhaps by Tisa and by Aaron being elevated to high priest and Aaron's behavior in the story, is where do we find ourselves on that spectrum? Where do we belong? And maybe more importantly, are we doing at least one of these? Either standing up with moral clarity or working hard from the inside, understanding the morals, but being willing to compromise them perhaps in order to stay in the game and help people. That is the ultimate question. The world needs its Vashtis. The world needs its Esthers. The world needs its Hors, and the world needs its Aharons. But we have to be one or the other. The choice to be neither. The choice to stay morally silent completely in the face of terrible things we see going on in the world, or we may perceive going on in the world, that is no choice at all. And so I pray that we all have the moral clarity to sense what is right and what is wrong, and whatever our personal style of leadership, whatever way we intervene on behalf of people, may we be successful in moving toward that morality, toward that universal good, toward a world full of more holiness, toward a world where we can depend on each other to be guided toward that moral light. Wish you a Shabbat Shalom.